Assalamu alaikum, dear students. It's Professor Shakil Ahmed speaking to you. It's going to be my sixth lecture on the classical English poetry, but this time we are going to switch over to our next poet. His name is John Milton. The previous lectures were concerned with Pope's The Rape of the Lock. This time we are going to study John Milton's Paradise Lost. But first of all, I will say a few things about John Milton himself. He was born in 1608 in England. It was much later than the age of Elizabethan age, you can say. But all the same, it was still the age of drama and poetry. He took start, as a poet, he took start with the short poems. He wrote a few sonnets, for example, a sonnet on Shakespeare or a sonnet on his blindness. First of all, he wrote such short poems. That is the first phase of his poetry. His second phase as a literary artist is concerned with his prose work. During this age, he wrote a few essays. Some of them are concerned with the political affairs of that time. Some others are concerned with scholarly things. Then starts the third phase, that is the last phase of John Milton as a poet. During this phase, he wrote great poems like Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. Both of them are epics. Both are epics. It was also the age of restoration. Restoration means restoration of the king. King Charles II was restored. His most well-known poem, that is Paradise Lost, an epic, appeared in 1667. This poem is notable for a few things. First of all, there appears the true spirit of an epic in it. Although John Milton didn't write it in the heroic couplet or in hexameter, he wrote it in blank verse and in pentameter, iambic pentameter. Still, it's remarkable the way the poet has coped with the subject matter. Perhaps he made use of that iambic pentameter for its fluency. It was considered by him as the best way to communicate his ideas. And then, after all, he must have studied a number of tragedies by Shakespeare and other dramatists in the same iambic pentameter. Some critics say that he got a few ideas, he rather borrowed a few ideas from the poetry and also dramas of Christopher Marlowe. All the same, he wrote this poem in iambic pentameter and in blank verse, not in the heroic couplet. But his style still remains grand. Grand style of Milton is one of the most important aspects of Paradise Lost. Questions are set on this topic. He has made use of a number of different words. Some of them are perhaps rather newly made by him, or he perhaps borrowed from other languages. He has made use of a variety of words in this Paradise Lost. For this work, Milton is still considered to be the second great poet in English literature after Shakespeare. It is said that he made use of more than 5,000 different words in this piece of work. Now, this Paradise Lost is concerned with the fall of Adam and Eve. It's also concerned with the punishment given to Satan by God Almighty. Satan disobeyed God Almighty, and as a punishment, he was thrown down into the depth of the hell. Later on, Satan wanted to take revenge, so he tried to cheat Adam and Eve. He tempted them. He wanted to disobey God. He wanted them to disobey God, to somehow commit some sins for which they should be banished from heaven. And in the end, he succeeded. He succeeded in his mission. He was able to first to tempt Eve and later to tempt Adam. And they too had to face a fall. So Milton's Satan is presented as a very cunning, crafty, and rather, I should say, over clever and ambitious entity in this poem. Some critics consider even Milton's Satan as the hero of this poem for all these qualities. They say that actually he is a villainous hero, and the idea of a villainous hero was quite common during the Elizabethan age. We find such heroes in the tragedies or dramas of Christopher Marlowe, Webster, Beaumont and Fletcher, and even Shakespeare. Even in Shakespeare's Macbeth, you find a villainous hero. Then almost all the plays by Christopher Marlowe present villainous heroes in them. Dr. Faustus, Tamburlaine the Great, Edward II, the Jew of Malta, all are villainous heroes. Some other Elizabethan dramatists too presented villainous heroes in them. So these critics say that actually Milton was inspired by these Elizabethan dramatists. So that is why he wrote his Paradise Lost in iambic pentameter and in blank verse. He did it under the influence of the great drama produced in the Elizabethan era. So they say that Milton actually presented Satan as a hero, as a villainous hero in this great poem. However, some other critics disagree. They have their own opinion. They think that Adam is the hero in this poem because nobody who has bad intentions can be considered as the true hero. They have their own opinion. Still, the character of Satan has got a great potential in him. The way he challenges God Almighty, the way he tempts Adam and Eve, the way he goes through a number of adventures, present him as an entity with a great spirit, courage, and ambitions. Remember it that Satan's character is the most important character in the Paradise Lost. A number of questions are set on this character. And then Milton perhaps wanted to present a few things which overwhelmed his mind at that time. It is said that this poem contains some autobiographical element in it. Actually, Milton wanted to present rather a sort of force which disobeys God Almighty in a very radical way. Milton himself perhaps was radical in his approach. So it is the opinion of a few critics. Apparently, we know that Milton was a religious minded man and he had even learned the Bible by heart, and he had a great knowledge of his religion, and he is considered to be even a Puritan as well. He lived a rather pure and pious life, but inwardly in his heart, he had a few things perhaps. It is something that is concerned with the psychological study of that person, and nothing is certain about it. All the same, at places, Saturn appears to be rather, to some extent, the ideal character of Milton. The way he has given a great spirit to him. So, this is my introductory lecture about Milton and the Paradise Lost. Next time, inshallah, we shall take start with the actual work, that is Paradise Lost. It's book 1. It's enough for today. Thank you very much, students, and Allah Hafiz.